KORK Horror Talks. We're
Hello.
absolutely hi. We're absolutely thrilled to have you as the second guest of our brand new second season. Thank you so much for saying yes to our invitation. I'm Sofia Alvarez Salas, as you know, your host for this episode and the international presenter of the KORK Film Festival. Today, we're going to talk about Morbido Fest, the leading horror film festival in Mexico and Latin America. We'll dive into how the festival operates, how films are selected, the state of horror cinema around the world. And I also have some personal questions, so let's get started. The first one, either one can answer. So, can you tell us the story about how Morbido Fest began? What were the initial motivations and how the festival evolved over the years?
Well, since Tim is one of the longest members in this team, I think he's the right person to answer this question.
Okay, let me start. I attended every festival. No? The festival started in 2008. Pablo founded the festival. I was before in Mexico a few times to work. And then one year he told me I opened a festival. Yeah, and he liked movies, horror movies. It was really special for horror movies. And so it was in a silver mining city called Tlalpujahua in 2008 where the first Morbido Film Festival has happened. And then for the next 4 or 5 years, we stay in Tlalpujahua. And it was an audience festival. A lot of people coming from around the area, even from Mexico, they drive to this city, which is around 160 kilometers from Mexico. But after a while, we changed to a city called Pátzcuaro for 2 years. There we had also the first bigger international guests like Richard Stanley and Simon Boswell. And after the 2 years, we were going to Puebla. And after 2 years in Puebla, since then, we are in Mexico. Barbara was always interested to make it as an event festival. So we had a big audience, opening ceremony with the audience, a closing ceremony, guests talking. We had never made really panels or something like that, but we had meetings and the people meet and greet more or less also on the festival and can talk about the movies. When the pandemic comes, it changed a little bit in the event part of the festival, that after the pandemic, we are no more focused on the movies, and we are, like other movie festivals, more or less really a movie festival. But that is a little bit about the history of Morbido. In the what happened in the 90s, in the early 2008. Also in the first 10 years from 2000 and after the pandemic, but still we are a film festival, yes.
So it's amazing to see how you started creating this gathering of people, this community around what the festival was. Even if it changed places, you can tell that the community was forming and growing and growing and growing. So that's very cool. What is the mission for Morbido Fest today, and how do you see that your role in the broader landscape of genre festivals globally?
Well, for us, it's very important to be the beacon of Latin America genre cinema to the world. We aim and we want to continue in fostering talent, Latin American talent, and at the same time be able to bring what we believe is the most exciting genre pieces to our audience. Not only the scares and the thrills, but also proposing and daring films that not other festivals may have, or actually have, but we have an audience that we cater to. So we want to tell them, hey, check this out. This is a ghost story. This is, I don't know, dragon story, and to bring all that together in one cinematic experience, no? So that's how we see that's our mission.
I think your mission is accomplished right now. I think the Morbido Film Festival is a very well-known staple film festival. Everyone who does horror knows about you. I think that is accomplished. How would you describe the current state of horror cinema in Mexico? What do you think makes it unique in comparison to other regions, maybe?
Well, I think right now, this decade, Mexican horror cinema is going through a renaissance phase, where we have a new wave of directors like Michel Garza Cervera, Isaac Esban, and not only Mexican but Mexican American or Mexican Canadian like Gigi Sol Guerrero, that are giving us very interesting proposals that pair the festival acclaim and good numbers in the box office. So I think we're in a very good state of producing genre, not only horror, genre cinema, and we are excited of what's coming next. Now, new voices, new thematics, new interests. So yeah, I think it's in a very good state, and we're excited to see that it's not only working in Mexico. We're excited to see that these authors are traveling all around festivals or releasing their films in countries like Russia or Vietnam and being successful at it. So we are in a very exciting phase, and we think Morbido is one of the pieces that helps to push this forward.
Yeah, in addition to this, also that we have an eye, or the other from Latin America have an eye on us. So we also have mostly the newest stuff what happens in Argentina, Chile, Colombia, Peru. We get also movies from there every year, and sometimes because of our position is end of October and the first 8 to 10 days in November, we get sometimes movies which are made for spring release next year. So we're sitting in a very good position monthly wise.
Yes, for sure. For example, like right now we're on the very close dates to the Lima Film Festival. You know, I'm from Peru, so the Lima Film Festival is from Peru. And I heard, and I was very happy about this, I heard conversations about Morbido. And I was like, I know them, I know them, it's amazing. So as to your point, like it's a very well-known festival, and you can tell like it's a reference for, at least I can say for the region, but I'm almost certain that it's bigger than that. So it's a good position to be in the way that you can sense also the tendencies in horror cinema today. Maybe things that the audience will later see, you are seeing it right now. That is a very interesting position to be. I can only imagine what you're seeing, and I'm very excited about that.
Mm.
So how do you feel Mexican audiences respond to horror films? Are there specific subgenres or themes that resonate more deeply maybe with Mexican audiences?
Well, Mexico is a super consumer of horror, and I was reading about this survey that they interview regular Mexican consumers in cinemas, and it was interesting that this survey showed up that 49% of the people that responded, they actively choose the genre, and you see that reflected both in demand and supply. So we have at least one horror movie being released every week, but sometimes we have 2 or even 3 in different sizes and different thematics. So Mexico is like one of the highest consumers in the world, and also for studio films. It's very interesting that Mexico always appears in the number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4 top countries, and I think that connects to our way of being, our idiosyncrasy, to thematics like religion, supernatural, folklore, or thematics centering into family, haunted houses where a family gets attacked. That resonates with people because we are a country that appreciates being in a family and being a community close. So when we have a film like that, reflects very well on the values of the community. Perhaps Tim, who's been, I can say a Mexican by now, who doesn't speak Spanish, but is Mexican, can
He's
reflect us a
Mexican.
little bit.
Yeah, in addition in addition that Mexicans are really open for the devil, everything has to do with religion, supernatural, haunted houses, or even deadly or dangerous dolls. There are some genres which are not going so well in Mexico. Let's say, as an example, the slasher movies. The audience here in Mexico is focused, that has to do with the tradition, the legends, and the fairy tales of Mexico, and also with the religion.
That's interesting. Yeah, I'm
which is
sorry.
something that also reflects with Turkish cinema, I guess. No, with religion is also very important. And speaking about what Tim said is very accurate, because the genres like slashers or serial killers don't work very well because it's not in our culture. It's more in the USA or Canada culture, North American culture. And even though we get 90% of what they produce and we consume that, there are still things that don't connect with the audience. So yeah, it's definitely about the culture, the religion, our fears, and everything that goes around the family thematics. Is always it works very well.
For sure. We were interviewing a few days ago a few festivals from India, and they were also talking about the folklore around it. And of course, as I think everyone will agree, cinema is a reflection of the cultures that are representing, right? Like it's what we need to do in order to preserve what we're living right now. So as a representation, when you're doing fiction, of course, it has to reflect the fears and the myths of each culture. And when you have a culture like a Mexican culture that is so rich with this myth, you have amazing stories to tell. And I think maybe that's the reason why horror films work so well. And I'm also thinking, I don't remember exactly, but Ozzy Osbourne passed away. I don't remember if it was this week or last week, but well, recently. And in the forming of Black Sabbath, I don't know if any of you were a fan, but he was saying like the formation started because they couldn't understand how many people wanted to be scared going to the cinemas and watching in that time Italian horror films, and people wanted to be scared, so they made a band that made people scared. It's something like that. Like people want to be scared. They want to have those experiences that in other places they couldn't feel them comfortably. So I think maybe that's another key piece of the puzzle of why horror is working so well. And of course, you have identified it correctly.
You touch a
So
very important point. Being scared, the experience, the adrenaline, the getting away of yourself for a little bit, being in a dark room all together, sharing this experience, sharing this story, and it's something that no other genre I think can give you. And it's also why horror works very well in cinemas and not so much in streaming, because you need like the adequate setting, the darkness, the sounds, the big screen, a lot of people around you, and that experience is what we as a festival, and I know that for sure that KORK also looks for it, to give to the audience that experience that they will not receive in their couches, in their, I don't know, screen, in a stereo sound. It's nothing compares to being in a cinema room with a crowd watching a horror film.
for sure. So Jose Luis, from your perspective as a programmer of feature films, how has the production of horror features in Latin America changed in the past decade?
I think it's going in a very impressive numbers of production and consuming. We have, the typical powerhouses like Argentina or Peru. They're giving us amazing masterpieces, current masterpieces that puts to the challenge to any American film being produced right now. Not films like When Evil Lurks. This year, 1978, an Argentinian film that also reflects on
Yes.
history and the politics, and all the genocide that was enforced by the government. Speaking of Peru, The Devil's Teardrop, a film that was in Morbido last year, and it's amazing. It's a small piece that does very well to reflect Peruvian culture with the typical U.S. visitor that goes where he doesn't should be, and then he faces the angst of Peruvian gods. So I think it's a very good moment, not only for Mexican but also for Latin American cinema, and we have very good instances and platforms internationally that work very hard around this. For example, Blood Window, Ventana Sur, and many other platforms that help films and creators and producers and directors and screenwriters to push their stories forward and to gain a place in the market, in the global market. And I think there's a lot of talent. I think we're getting more connected now, not only to Europe or to Asia, but also between ourselves, because we may speak the same language, but it's really not the same language. And sometimes the stories in the backbone are the same. So that's what we are seeing right now. And we are seeing a flow of very important and interesting creators from all over Latin America that are giving us very, very important horror films. And we're just happy to be able to promote that.
I think that's amazing, and that Morbido is a place in which this can flourish. Flourish.
Yeah.
You can see more of them. You can see them, on the front line. As there's not many other spaces, so this is a great opportunity, I think, for all the creators in this space. So, Tim, do you see a growing space for experimental or unconventional horror shorts in Mexico and Latin America?
No, not really. Experimental is not so questioned. Seriously, the audience is here more straightforward stories as they go. They exist, but in the last years we had not many experimental horror movies, or it's more really even a short film can have a straightforward story, and I didn't see so many experimental horror short films in the last years. I mean, I'm doing this since 3 years now, and I was involved before also in short or features selections or brought movies to the festival. There's not so here the audience is not so open, or let's say that was not so interested in experimental. If you really ask for experimental movies,
Yeah,
that's right. But I have picked up a trend that there are certain films and certain audiences that they didn't used to watch horror, and when we throw them experimental film, a very niche film, they react to it. So this kind of filmmaking is in the genre space is gaining audiences that it didn't used to. So I think while today is true what Tim says, I think in the following years, I think we're gonna see more experimental audiences, experimental films like being part of the conversation. I don't know, last year was Skinamarink one of them, no? But we have many other films like popping up in different festivals and gaining audiences that they didn't used to have. So I think it will be exciting to see what's going to happen with this type of cinema.
yeah,
yes,
I mean,
yes, Tim, I'm so sorry. Continue.
no. When you say unconventional, yes, there exist, of course, unconventional. It was really meant to be more for the part of experimental. There are own festivals, and yes, also Mexico has some major festivals and mainstream festivals, or let's say regular, even like Guanajuato. The thing is that experimental movies needs an audience that understand or wants to see. There's very less space in this way a commercial or straightforward telling of short horror stories. Same in science fiction. We have also not so much science fiction short films as an example.
That's true.
Last year we had just one, or really true fantasy, which is a genre which I really like, but it's very, very less in the last years that we get really fantasy stories.
Do you think it's a budget constraint? Or what?
It's more from Latin America and Spain, mostly really straightforward horror is coming. I remember before 2 years, we had a very interesting fantasy film, a fantasy story from Italy, which I put in the program. But it becomes really more or less very rare that you have a where you really can say it's a kind of mystery fantasy. It's a fairy tale like story that becomes really rare. The focus is more on horror, which is in part easier to tell, and otherwise it could be also a budget. But that movie I selected has really beautiful castle and locations and cellars, and so it was really a fantasy movie.
Maybe it's a matter of tendencies. Maybe later on in a few years we'll see more fantasies, more science fiction. If it's not a budget thing, We'll see.
Science fiction has strong years and not so strong years, also in short films. We had, for 3 years, a strong science fiction year. There were really 10 inside. They're coming from Australia, New Zealand, Canada, and the US mostly, and also made with really, let's say, really good VFX effects. So that was not the problem. But in the last 2 years, it was more and more really horror.
It could be very interesting to analyze why this variates, no? Is it something about the current state of the world that people feel like, no, we need like something that scares us, but that we know is fiction. We don't want to see like look ahead in the future.
In terms of short films, it has to do also with programs. As an example, Spain does a lot with short films. They choose production companies. They're searching for talent. They let them do short films guided by bigger production companies. Every year, Spain comes with a lot of technically well-made short films. Particularly in Canada and America happens the same. But there are stronger years and not so strong years. But fantasy is really not more so much made as maybe it was before 5 or 6 years.
And I wanted to add, now that you touched the point of Spain and the short films, but the thing is Spain has an industry, a big industry around short films. No, they have a full circuit of production and consumption well established that starts with the televisions being producers and putting most of the capital to do a short film, and they have the structure to play it, to air it, and to show it. So audiences already used to find a high quality short film in, I don't know, A3 Media or TVE. So yeah, that's a thing, and it's very important because it sets the ground for upcoming filmmakers to play with big boy toys, no, and to do a short film with high standards. And that's why we have seen very important Spanish filmmakers for the last 20-30 years doing amazing things of genre, low budget, high budget, art house. And so I think that's the thing that we can learn from Spain, to set up a full ecosystem of short films, not only as the graduation piece of a student that's gonna pay with the family savings and no one's gonna watch it.
Yeah, it has also to do with how strong the output from film schools are in the countries like Austria, Germany. They have stronger years and they have not so strong years. That's simply true. But Spain is constantly very high. It's a very good example because they really take care of the talent, of the upcoming talent.
Yes, as you say, I think it's a matter of infrastructure. Like if you have all the elements to make it work, it's easier to just do it and start experimenting a little bit with genre, seeing what you like, start developing a little bit more and a little bit more, and growing.
But it has also to do that Spain really invests money in talent.
Yes.
So they
There's a
have
lot
contracts with production companies. They're searching and they let them doing these movies. It's not often directly related to a film school. It's related more to production companies to find future talent.
Yes, that is true. Although I don't think it's also disconnected to the film schools. I don't know if when I studied filming here in Spain, in Madrid, and I remember there were some helps that, well, A3 Media, for example, made in connection with a master's degree to find this talent. So it's also like a connection. They didn't look down on the students either. They were creating the talent. They were forming it, even if that wasn't going to be a great piece. They were starting to form this talent that later on will be developing huge films in genre. It's true that it was about genre because maybe it's easier to market. That I don't know, but from what I've seen is, as you said, a whole structure around it that allows creators of every branch, directors, DOPs, or writers, to develop these stories further.
Yeah, you can say it in other words that Spain has, let's say, the taste for genre. We have a structure, as an example, I'm German, so we have in Germany also these structures. We have 3 really good film schools, but they don't do much genre. It's this is more, it goes in a very different direction because it's not featured. But I have the feeling that in Spain, genre is never a problem, and in Germany it is.
That's very interesting. I think it is. But now let's hope that for Mexico, the structure will be developed and, Morbido will be a key part of this. So Morbido is not just a film festival, but also a part of a wider ecosystem. Can you tell us more about Morbido Group's structure and the different initiatives that you're involved in, like TV, magazine, production, all of what you're doing?
Well, we have always believed that the way to reach an audience is not just in a one-year event. No, you need to be part of their lives, be part of their conversations, and to add value to their lives. Speaking of genre, no? So we have a radio program that's been aired for the last 16 years now in a college station here in Mexico, and it's a radio program that not only talks about films, but it talks about thematics. So it chooses a thematic, and around it goes around talking about pop culture, horror films, no, and that specific part serves to make the people know what Morbido is about. No, we're not only a horror film fest. We're not here only to scare you. We're here to bring you interesting films and recommendations and art and talk about different things around pop culture. And so that starts there. We have a magazine for a few years. It was also very, very important. We have every number had an artist in the cover that gave us the art, and it was very, very interesting. And as the festival and the production company, we have also been producing films all these years, co-producing in different stages of production. And as this part was growing, our footprint in the industry, in the commercial side of the cinema, started growing as well. We started a distribution company in 2019. What it's called Manticora, and slowly but slowly we have been more participant in other areas of cinema. Not also the festival, but also distribution, production. And 3 years ago, we created what we think is our most important initiative so far. It's called the Fantastic Pavilion, which is a business hub, a business hub for the genre community in the most important cinema market, in Marché de Film. And that started from the inconvenience that all the genre colleagues, professionals that they didn't have a place to meet or a place to do business. And it was ironic how genre cinema is the 10 poles of this industry, creating the most or one of the most gross profit films every year. How come the community around these films didn't have a space to do business and to network and to create ideas and to flow ideas and discussions in the most important market? So it was like, well, this is not fair, so let's do it ourselves. And it took us a bit to convince Cannes. We finally did it, and I think it's a very good platform, not only to do business in Cannes, but also to create or to widen the community, because it allows to a free flow of creators and short filmmakers and scriptwriters and directors and small sales agents and distributors that found in the Fantastic Pavilion a place where they truly belong and where they at ease and where they are themselves, and just by creating that ecosystem, that space, ideas start to flow, and we have been privileged for the last 3 years to see how amazing connections and ideas start in the pavilion, just for people sharing a glass of wine when they didn't used to. And we have people, I remember very well, and I forget the name of this girl, but she was amazing, a short filmmaker from Canada who did a body horror piece with a man eating vagina. So she was walking all around the Marseille with a prosthetic of the size, a big vagina with teeth. And But you can see, like, she was like, I don't know what to do, but she was like carrying out the giant vagina. And in the pavilion, she found a place where she could meet fellow creators and minds alike that also do amazing short films. And I bet you that in the next 4 or 5 years, I'm gonna see that girl coming back to the pavilion and show us, hey, here's my first film, and it's gonna be amazing. So that's what's been very exciting for us, and the last part of the ecosystem that we have created, and that we hope that it's gonna spark more and more amazing genre films.
We have also a television channel.
And we have a television channel.
Yeah. 24 hours,
away,
only fantastic cinema without commercials.
Yeah,
It's a pay TV channel, and it was created before 5 years.
7 years now.
7 years now.
Yeah.
You see.
Yeah, it's called Morbido TV, and it's a basic pay TV channel that airs in Latin America, and we're happy to announce that has grown into a bigger media hub. It's called Umbra, and where Morbido TV is gonna air. So we're gonna have a bigger offering of films and short films and genre media. It's gonna launch in September. We're gonna start in Latin America, but our aim is to go global in the next couple of years. So hopefully we can talk more about that in the next edition and with a bigger platform.
For sure. I'm sure we're going to find ourselves again in the next edition of KORK International Horror Film Festival talking about it. But yes, it's true. And the Fantastic Pavilion, talking a little bit about it, is incredibly well known. So it's a success for everyone around. Everyone knows about the Fantastic Pavilion. And if you're a creator of horror, sci-fi, or fantasy, that's the place to be in Cannes. It's amazing what you're accomplishing with it. So,
well, you as well, you're part of it.
Yes, I'm part of it too. Well, but I feel like I cannot take credit. I'm just helping people that come in. But I'm very glad to be part of it and be helping you guys in whatever way I can, for sure. And I'm happy to be talking to you. Like, I miss you. It's been like a few months, but
yeah,
but I miss you. So I was going to say we're very excited to be in contact about a partnership between Morbido and KORK, the International Horror Film Festival in Turkey. So what do you think are the benefits of creating such transnational festival collaboration?
First, I would say it's also a little exchange of culture. Huh? So let's see what is coming. We do an exchange maybe with 1 or 2 feature films and around 5 short films. And the exchange is from Turkey to Mexico and Mexico to Turkey. So it is a little bit looking in another window of a different culture. And we can help each other also.
For me, it's about connecting cultures, to let Mexican people know what Turkish filmmaking is going on, and then it's amazing. And also to the other way around, to let the Turkish audience know what's going on in Mexico in terms of genre cinema. And it's also creating bridges and connections. I don't know if you know this, but in Mexico, and I think also in the rest of Latin America, somehow the last 5-10 years, Turkish soap operas have exploded here. So, and I see my mom and my aunts watching Turkish soap operas, and well, that sparked me a question. Is like, how come that happened with soap operas? It will happen again with genre cinema, and we are here. So it's about bridging cultures and fostering our relationships and connecting colleagues and audiences and to see that there's a lot of very interesting cinema besides the north of our border and Europe and countries like Turkey that have been around making amazing films like forever. So yeah, it's about connecting.
So are you familiar with Turkish horror cinema? Do you have any favorite Turkish horror films or filmmakers maybe?
Yeah, also as you can see, I'm collecting physical media.
Yes.
In Germany, some of the older Mexican genre films were very famous, become famous because there was a Turkish DVD label called Ona Films. And I collected some of these movies, like the Turkish Exorcist version, Satan, then very famous and a totally party movie was, and of course super famous is the Turkish Star Wars version. So I collected around 10 movies which I could get. It was not so easy to collect them because they were only a short time on the market. But some of the some of the Turkish films from the 60s, 70s, and 80s I have collected. And the newer titles where we had a guest here from Turkey, Kan Evrenol with Baskin was the first time he was here, and later he comes back with another movie. I just forget the name. Jose?
Well, he has another amazing films that I like very much, Sayara, which is
Sayara was it? Yes.
Sayara. Yeah, and we had the fortune to co-produce with him his last film, the remake of the Turkish Table, the Turkish Coffee Table, which I think it's ruthless. It's an amazing film, and that we will see playing around festivals this season. And one of the things that I found in my last trip to Turkey this summer is called Dracula Istanbul, the Mehmet Muhtar, and I think was an amazing take on the classic Dracula story, and it's very nice, and I like it very much.
Yeah, and Dracula in Istanbul exists before. There's an older version even, and I'm a huge fan, I hope I say it right, from a movie series Turkish, it calls Killing. It's a little bit like Diabolic. It's a masked evil guy. And also, when we're talking here from culture, I grew up in Germany to the times of VHS. Turkish movies, especially in Berlin, we have a huge Turkish community, had Turkish videotheks where you can rent Turkish movies. And there were partly giallos, which we could not see because they were never released really in Germany, but the Turkish had it, mostly dubbed in Turkish then. Or, let's say, the actor, I hope I say the name right, S2E2, which has made also the Lions movie. He was even famous in German because these movies were released on German VHS, dubbed in German, and they were clearly from Turkey. So there was and in Germany we had a few titles, let's say shortly under 10, from Turkey, from the golden years, you can say, no? Which is the 70s and to the mid of 80s. There's even a Turkish Charles Bronson version we had once, the Death Wish. There's a Turkish Death Wish version, which is super fun to watch. So I saw them all. Everything we could get from Turkey, we tried to get, and we collected it.
I think this is amazing. I feel like the world is so small that we see the connection between, well, Mexico, Turkish, Germany, and Turkey. They're closer, of course, and culturally there are a lot of migration going on. So it's closer. But I love that feeling that it gives is that genre and film are so much bigger than borders.
Mm-hmm.
So everyone knows about each film. So what aspects of Turkish cinema, whether horror or in general, do you find intriguing or worth exploring more deeply?
Yeah, as I can say, from Turkish horror cinema, I only saw Satan and two others, which I forgot the names, which mostly, the Turkish cinema in the 70s or 80s, they mostly rip off, there's a Turkish Superman, a Turkish Enterprise version. This is so fun to watch with the Turkish Mr. Spock. I have them all on DVD or on VCD. I had it even on the system under a DVD. And there are some regular mainstream, also festival films which coming from Turkey, which were more political, especially also in the 80s and 90s. I saw maybe two in television, in German television. Turkish Star Wars version is such a cult film. The Men Who Explode the World also is the original title. And also, I saw two Italian Turkish co-produced giallos, which I own on VHS. I forget the name. And even I saw two Turkish westerns. Also, the genre-wise, everything was there in Turkey. Yeah?
Oh my God.
Mostly very cheaply and fast produced, but they were a lot of fun, especially when they dubbed them in German. That was such a fun to watch.
for me, and it's something that I want to explore more, is this folk horror with Islamic vernacular, or with the Islamic things, like the jinn mythology. I think it's very interesting, and I think it offers a very unique cultural perspective that we don't get to see this side of the world. So for me, it's like something that I like and that I wanted to deep down. And now that you talk about in general, not only genre film, for me also, I like very much the films of Nuri Silan Belch, the Palme d'Or winner of Turkey, and it's a completely different cinema. You know, it's like a very, very slow cinema. But he takes the time to make every shot. Like, you can see even like the plants moving from the slope of every take. But I mean, it's very beautiful. And when he gets into conversations, when you see the dialogues and the script, it's I think for me it's a class of philosophy, because it's a very well written script, a very well written dialogues, and he likes to, in films like in films what he won, like the Palme d'Or, that you can see the beauty of the Turkish landscape. And from watching that, for me, was the first time was amazing to see these people having a very deep, interesting conversation with a landscape full of snow and mountains, and what was amazing. So that's also very interesting for me in terms of Turkish cinema.
That's great. So, of course, there's so much film to see, so much movies to watch, and so much to learn. And hopefully now with this collaboration, each of the festivals can nurture each other from the cinema of the other place. That's obviously a great opportunity. So
yeah, it's a good start also for the future. No? I mean, we start. For short films, I can say in the last 2 years, I had each year 1 or 2 from Turkey. I have not. Well, there was a black and white one, which was really very good. There were some, but it was not so that when you counted again Spain or Canada or the US, it was very rare to get something from Turkey, like you get something from the United Arab Emirates or so. No, but it's a good start in the beginning, and yeah. I think it's also interesting enough to present this to a Turkish audience in an international blog, that we have some Turkish movies inside. And there will be the same also what is happened in Mexico. What kind of themes are there to see? No? What I would really like to do once is to do a retrospective from the last 3 to 5 years in short films. So the highlights, because yeah, you have a huge program, but there are really some exceptional examples, really, of also in filmmaking, and that would be maybe a plan for the next years to do something like this. What when we had made the exchange, what happened on the Turkish side and what happened on the Mexican side with the movies, and how the audience react, or how was it? Maybe a shorter 20 minutes or something like that. And that's very interesting, but I'm looking forward that we have the exchange, that we're doing this together this year. And second focus this year for me in short films is also India and Arabic countries. So yeah, let's see. It fits very well, and I want to see more from countries where we not every day seeing something.
Yeah, it's true.
To explore. That is what I'm always doing when I try to collect movies. I explore them. I try to find something what I haven't seen, or to explore also the country. No? I mean, they're really. I had a short film from Indonesia before 3 years. It was so weird. I never saw something like this before. But it's Indonesia. It's very different in the. No?
Yeah, it is.
Thailand the same.
Yeah.
This year it will be Turkey and India. And especially Turkey.
It's a way to travel the world, to understand different cultures through cinema.
Yeah. And I would only add that in reinforcing that idea, that to the KORK audience, that let themselves travel to the Mexican filmmaking and find interesting things. I'm sure that you will find things that you want to connect with, as I am sure that we will connect a lot with the Turkish short films. And yeah, let's keep exploring and connecting.
So thank you so much again for being here, Tim and José Luis. It's been an absolute pleasure to talking to you, to seeing you again. I hope to see you and Morbido again very soon.
Yeah.
Thank you, Sofia, Honor, and the KORK Film Festival for having us.
Same for me. We see us hopefully next year again by the fantastic
Yeah,
Pavilion.
for sure. Yes, we see each other.